So on the topic of white men who are fetishizing black women, but also women in general in this movie, and I think Leo, he does have a thing for light skins as well. I
Oh,
couldn't accept the father-daughter relationship when I know that Chase Infinity is already too old for him. I couldn't take it seriously, allegedly.
wait, allegedly, were you as uncomfortable as I was with some of those scenes between Sean Penn's Lockjaw and Chase Infinity's Willa?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought he was going to rape her at times.
They made a point of the character repeatedly, weirdly saying, this, black women. Do you like black women? Black women. And then they have him all up in the face and all up in
Yeah.
the personal space of this character who in America would be
Mm.
coded as a black woman.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, what's going on here? And again, unfortunately, because Paul Thomas Anderson has already demonstrated his fetishistic gaze of black women this entire film, I cannot trust
Mm.
his intentions in how he is positioning the camera when those two people are interacting. And it
Mm.
made me deeply
Mm.
uncomfortable. Now, I don't mind being uncomfortable when I'm watching films. Great films make me be like, oh my God, oh,
Exactly.
wow, right? I don't mind being uncomfortable if I feel like there's ultimately interesting new insight that's going to be revealed from this discomfort. But what interesting thing actually happened in this film? What did this film tell me that I've never thought about before?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. But I think you're giving more credit than I would. So, of course, I understand that race is very complicated in America. And as someone who grew up in the UK, I just have a very different model with which I think about race, and someone who's Caribbean as well. But I do think this movie, and I do think that Thomas Anderson, and I think men like Lockjaw know that there's a difference between a mixed race woman and a black woman. I think they know that.
Mm.
And so I read Lockjaw's disgust with Willa. It's because yes, technically she's a black woman in America, but he's not the type. She's not the type of black woman he fetishized. He's not. She's not the type of black woman he apparently has affinity to. He is a classic racist, and in fact, I would actually say that this movie did a great job of depicting this type of man. By the way, I've seen these sorts of men in real life, obsessed with what they consider to be the most black type of woman, but they wouldn't be interested in a mixed race woman, and they also don't want to have any child that looks like a mixed race person either.
Let's talk about white supremacy and let's talk about jungle pussy.
Perfidious hypersexual behavior in the movie is an important part of the movie. It's actually the biggest kind of plot device in the movie. Having said that, you don't get to escape the allegations of fetishizing black women when you bring in a second black woman whose name in the movie is Jungle Pussy. And at some point in the movie, we see white men literally, they don't even refer to her as the name she's chosen. Now she just becomes Pussy, right? So you've completely dehumanized this woman at that point.
I want to add some additional context there because Jungle Pussy is a real life person, a real life musician, and that is her actual stage name. And I actually listen to Jungle Pussy's music. So again, I just want to draw this parallel to Tiana's casting as well. For you,
Mm.
as a filmmaker and your casting director, to cast Jungle Pussy, who is a real life person, and that is her real life stage name, and basically ask her
Ah.
to play a character with that specific name that is her real life stage name, the implications there are wild. Like, did you always have that in mind? Did someone tell you about her and you were like, oh, that would be perfect? That's exactly what I'm looking
Mm.
for.
Mm.
And what does it mean that both of these black women, they sought out these two black female entertainers and told them lean all the way into it?
Mm.
That's what I
Mm.
want specifically from you. That thing that is your
Mm.
own real life persona, bring it into my fictional world. I don't want to give straightforward accusations of minstrelsy because that's not exactly what's going on here. And it's not straightforward Jezebelification,
Um.
but it is somewhere in that spectrum. And the reason I don't want to fully give that accusation is because I am conscious that these are real women and to some degree these are their
Mm.
real personas. So I'm not
Mm.
in the interest of just tearing about another black woman because she's maybe more like vulgar than I
Mm.
would be. I'm not interested in doing that. I'm more interested in critiquing why that is the only type of black
Yeah.
man, and that's the only aspect of those black women's personalities that these kind of like
Yeah.
auteur filmmakers would be interested in highlighting, because Quentin Tarantino does this as well.
But I do think that the word minstrelsy probably would be a strong word. So I agree with you that it's not the appropriate word here. However, I couldn't watch this movie without thinking about blaxploitation movies. It is a
Yes.
blaxploitation movie. Period. Period.
Why are all the nuns black?
That's a good question. I don't know.
By the way, the whole concept of this non-enclave of badass nuns that are training, again, it's been done better
Seen it
in Mad
before.
Max
Yeah.
Fury Road. It's been done better
Seen it
on
before.
Brian Fuller's Pushing Daisies back in the day. It's been done better on Legend of the Seeker in the 2000s. Why are people saying this is a movie unlike anything they've ever seen before? What movies do you people be watching?
What I find interesting was the criminal underutilization of Regina Hall.
Regina,
So it's like you
please speak
have
on it.
you have a category A world class actress, but you decide to use her as a no shade. She's basically like a mummy here.
Yeah, they really ticked off every single standard
Every
Jim Crow
stereotype.
stereotype. Do you know, it's so interesting because just like with Tiana, halfway through this movie, 60% through this movie, 70% this movie, I refused to believe that this was all they were going to show me of this person. I was telling myself that there is no way. There is no way that Regina, this is the most she's going to do. I was like, something else is still going to happen in the final act. Even like the last we really properly see of her acting up is when she's speaking to Chase Infinity's Willa at the dinner table just before the feds come in. And then later on, you see her crying to the guy, to the FBI guy or federal agent or whatever. I was like, oh, is this a ruse? Is she going to turn out to have another trick up her sleeve? Is she going to be, had she already set up certain kinds of like bombs underneath the table? Something. Why is her character here? Why has her character been given the weight of being the final person to protect this woman? Regina Hall is such a good actress. And all the moments she had, I felt the particular like stillness and restraints of her character. I thought it was very well performed. But I was like, she deserves to have a little moment of wildness as well. You have Leonardo DiCaprio jumping upside down, somersaulting off of rooftop buildings. You have Benicio del Toro twirling around in front of cop cars. I'm like, when are y'all going to let my girl Regina show? When is her time? Right? Even a lot of the stuff that Chase Infinity does towards the end, I was like, it would have been really cool if Regina was doing some of this stuff with her. I was waiting for that moment to happen and it never happened. I was so shocked by how they underutilized her.
Another key theme in this movie, well, potential theme in this movie, is revolutionaries. I've also seen Paul Thomas Anderson say that this movie at its core is about what happens when revolutionaries don't work together cohesively. I didn't love the depiction of revolutionary activism in this movie. I think that it was very disrespectful and it didn't honor the Black American revolutionary history it's speaking to. For example, we see at some point Bob is watching the Battle of Algiers, which is something that the Black Panthers studied in order to be able to fight against against oppression in the United States. And also Algiers is an important place for Black revolutionaries of that area as well. Many of them would go over there for refuge, or they would go to Cuba. So it's like they're leaving these little Easter eggs in there, but they don't have the range to actually depict the fight of that category of people. And I think, when I left this movie, I wasn't happy with it. And then the same day I watched it, I shouted Shakur died. When I found out that news, I started to really hate the movie. Also, I've met Angela Davis before when I was at university, and I remember listening to her stories about what it was like fighting against oppression in the United States. And I just thought to myself, has this movie done anything to respect that history? And the answer is no.
I understand your critiques, and I think to some degree I felt that while I was watching the film. But by the time I got to the end, weirdly enough, I had come around almost 180 degrees on what I think this movie is trying to say about revolutionaries. That ultimately meant that I don't actually have too strong a negative criticism of this film when it comes to this particular axis of critique. And that's because I can never expect a white lib man like Paul Thomas Anderson to have anything that deeply nuanced to say about the
Mm.
subject of what fragments Black revolutionaries' relationship with each other. And especially in this case, Black revolutionaries who were supposed to believe all she loves doing is fucking white men. Especially because he himself, he's a white man that is partnered up with a woman of color who, in my opinion, clearly fetishizes Black